It's now time to look at the Indian economic engine and why it is now firing on all cylinders. Well, the latest GDP numbers have come and they've come much better than what many were expecting. In fact, it's upwards of 7%. 7.4% has been the numbers that have come in for GDP data at a time when the Indian economy has already surpassed Japan to be the fourth largest. It's tipped to be the third largest in the next 3 years if we get our act together. And that's exactly what I'm going to put forth in terms of questions to Mark Linscott, a senior advisor at USISPF and the Asia Group, joining me live to talk more about this. Mark, always a pleasure to have you on the show. Let me start by asking you, the numbers that have come in, the GDP numbers that have come in, they're much better than what many expected. It indicates that the economy is now on the upswing. What would you want the government to focus on to ensure that this growth path continues and ensures that we climb closer to the 8% growth highway?
Well, thanks for having me here. It's always a great pleasure to see you and talk to you. In terms of Indian growth, I think the trajectory it's been on with respect to looking outward and its trade agenda is critical. It has continuing negotiations with so many countries. It's had so many successes in concluding trade agreements with the European Free Trade Association, with UAE, Australia, and others. It continues negotiations with the European Union. And the biggest prize potentially is a trade negotiation with the United States. This relates to the reciprocal tariffs. I'm quite bullish on that. I think it's a real win-win opportunity for both countries. And I think this could seriously contribute to continued Indian growth. Mm-hmm.
Also, as far as manufacturing is concerned, come in there because there have been some concerns about the fact that manufacturing can be better. There are some specific sectors where there have been some concerns. At a time when there's a geopolitical headwind that China faces and a geopolitical tailwind that is supporting India's manufacturing ambitions, what would you think that the government's top three priorities should be? We are focusing on indigenous defense manufacturing being one, semiconductor another push area. But what, according to you, would really be the big sector focus that we should be putting all our policy focus on?
Well, certainly manufacturing, as you highlight, and India's had some tremendous successes recently, certainly in consumer electronics. Its manufacturing of phones, both for Apple and Samsung, the market's opening up for that. Some degree of uncertainty with respect to Trump's tariffs and what might actually unfold there. But, I think that is a sector that is clearly a growth one and can build employment over time. I would also highlight the services sector. I mean, there's always a focus on manufacturing. It's politically appealing, but the services sector is where India for a very long time.
Services is very important for us, Mark. Services is very important for us in India because while manufacturing is about aspiration, but we've been sort of capped out at about 17 to 18% of our GDP when it comes to manufacturing. But it's where services has really seen India lift off in terms of an economic engine. So yes, services is very important. What do you think should be our priority areas there?
Well, certainly digital services. And there's been progress in passing legislation in recent years on digital services. What is not so clear is how much India is opening up to the global digital economy. Certainly the private sector has opened up, but is the government creating the incentives for India to continue to export these digital services? And this is where I turn back to its trade negotiations, where I've spent my career. The negotiation with the United States will include a digital element. It will include hard issues like cross-border data flows and data localization. And I hope that India and the Modi government will embrace these opportunities.
Absolutely. Let's look at all those opportunities and possibilities that will let us climb on the 8% growth highway. I'm going to leave it there, Mark. Always a pleasure to have you on the show.